just before the video starts, make sure you go and check out my website, ystech.org. This is the place where you're going to be finding the latest news and everything great in technology, from reviews to tutorials and much more. So make sure you go check it out in the description, ystech.org. I'll see you there. Hey guys, it is YS from YS Tech here, and today we're going to be looking at a streamer computer. Now, first of all, before we start, make sure you go and check out my website, ystech.org, for the latest posts every Wednesday, just like this one. But other than that, let's head straight into the build. Now, first of all, we're going to be kicking off with the Ryzen 5 2600X. Now, the reason I picked this one is because it's a 6-core processor and it's clocked at 3.6 GHz. And this is going to be doing you really well when you're streaming. Now, in comparison, I only have a 1500X, and that is a pretty good CPU as well. And it can pretty much stream and play games and render and do everything else, have Chrome open at the same time, and it's going to be able to do all those tasks for you at the same time. So this guy is more than enough use for you guys to complete your streaming career and much more. Let's over to the motherboard, and the motherboard I've chosen is the Asus Prime B450M-A micro ATX board. Now this board actually has 4 slots. I picked a micro ATX board. It was a little bit cheaper, but you can choose something a little bit more expensive if you really want an ATX board, but really there's not too much difference. The SATA ports just might be in a different place, that's all. And the 24-volt pin. This is a pretty good board. It's made for Ryzen, as again, because we're going with a Ryzen build. And yeah, it should serve you pretty well. I've got an Asus board myself, and I've had absolutely no problems with it whatsoever for the last 2.5 years. It's been doing me so well. I'm really happy I got it. Motherboards are pretty cool, and make sure you pick the right one for yourself, otherwise you might not have a great experience. But I definitely recommend Asus Prime boards. Obviously, experiences change between persons, and just be careful when you're handling the board, when you're installing it in the computer case. So let's go over to the RAM. Now, I picked 16 gigs. You can pick less or more, but I reckon 16 is a sweet spot right now, especially for streaming. I found when I was on 8 GB, I was struggling a little bit to have too many things open, but with 16 I can just do whatever the hell now, and it's really easy because I understand aside for streaming you might be doing media creation or something like that, or rendering, some 3D graphics, extreme Photoshop animation, whatever, etc. So that might help you with that. And as well, 16 gigs, it's just a good baseline to have nowadays. So let's head over to the storage. Now this is quite flexible. Obviously, I just put a 1TB hard drive in there. I'm pretty sure you guys, if you have this budget, you might actually have some extra storage already. So well, you don't really have to get this guy. It's only about $74. It's a 1TB drive, but yeah, well, it's pretty solid. Western Caviar Blue, Western Digital Caviar Blue is pretty decent. I've had blue drives before, and I've never had a problem with them at all. They're still actually working till this day. I don't actually use them anymore, but yeah, they are pretty decent. Even laptop drives as well. And then we can have an SSD alongside that, so the Crucial BX 500 480 gig. Now this is not the top of the line SSD. The top of the line SSD is the MX 500, I believe. But this one's a little bit cheaper, 480 gigs for only about $88 from PB Tech. Yeah, solid drive. I actually have one plugged into my PS3. The MX 500, I paid a little bit more for it than this guy, but it's a pretty decent price to pick these guys up below I'd say about $95 for a 480 gig SSD. That's pretty decent. Now, the most important part of the build, technically, is the graphics card. Well, half and half, to be honest. The CPU is technically the most important here, but graphics card's also cool for showing off our game. And so this, I picked the RX 580 8GB from MSI, and this is a AMD card. I mean, you can pick the Nvidia cards, but they're a little bit pricey right now, considering that AMD is offering similar performance for less. And yeah, well, the 1650, again, stay away from that card. It's not worth it right now. 570 is pretty good. The 1060, the 1050 Ti, the 1070, the 1080 are good. The 2060, I believe, is decent, and well, anything above that, to be honest. Those ones are operating on ray tracing, so they have had their baby step issues, but I believe they've been sorted out as far as I know. But the RX 580 is still a solid card from AMD compared to Nvidia. So this guy only comes out around about $370 to $400. Don't pay too much for this card. I don't believe it's worth it for over, I'd say, about $450. You save your money. Anything below $450 should be decent. And just remember that this card's gonna be pretty high performing. It doesn't look that great. It's just got the two coolers and the heat pipe on there. You can get something that looks better if you really want to, but your graphics card's going to be tilted on an angle in any case, at a 90-degree angle. So yeah, well, this card should be pretty decent for you. Yeah, you can pick other cards if you really want to. This build's pretty flexible. And just remember, if you have a game at operating at 1080p high maximum settings on a AAA title, right? The other part to this build is your internet connection, because your internet connection is going to determine the amount of bitrate you can get when streaming. And I'll get to that a little bit later, but just keep that in mind. The build is important, but your connection to your router and the speeds it's able to handle is actually very important as well. Otherwise, you're not going to be getting the best stream that you could or potentially have. So next, we've just got the case. I just default one for me. Default is the Deep Cool Frame Micro ATX Mid Tower. Just $54, a cheap case. To be honest, I don't really care about aesthetics. Cheapest one that looks half decent. And this guy just fits the bill because it can fit the Micro ATX board. And lastly, we've got the power supply. So you can spend a little bit more on the power supply just because this build's a little bit pricier. And the parts are a little bit more demanding, so I picked the 650 watt 80 plus bronze certified from Corsair. It's the 2017 model, the CX one. And that's only about $124 from First Wave. It's a pretty decent one. I believe EVGA also offers something similar, and so does FSP. Just a word on FSP. I thought it was a dodgy brand. I didn't really have my fair share of it, but I actually ended up buying an FSP hydro power supply, and I've had absolutely no problems with it. It's pretty nice, and it's good to use. Yeah, it works so well. No problems whatsoever. So let's just go over the pricing again. So the CPU is about $240. The motherboard's about $140. The RAM is about $130. The hard drive is about $80. The SSD is around about $95. The graphics cards are around $390, I'd say. The case is about $55, and the power supply is about $130. So all up, that comes to $1,009. So $1,210. So I'd say it's a pretty decent budget. I built mine for around the same, and it looks like nowadays you're getting more performance than what I had during 2017 when I had built my computer. 100% this is better than mine, and I am able to stream pretty easily. So just the word of warning from before as well, if you're planning to stream, your bitrate is going to determine what you're able to stream on something like Twitch and what it's going to look like. So as you turn your bitrate down, the more fuzzy or like pixelated you could say it will get for the viewer, and the experience won't be so nice. So I put my bitrate only about 2100 to 2200 around there. Otherwise my computer can't really handle it, and well, my internet connection, as I've got gigabit to be honest, so I'm not too fussed about that. I'm gonna be getting gigabit speeds, so my computer can only handle about 2200, I'd say max, and it's able to keep that pretty constant, and it looks pretty decent on Twitch. If you're streaming higher than that, this computer should do pretty well, but just be aware of that because the results may vary, and it's good to flex the budget and flex the parts that you've had in this build. Otherwise, you're not going to have a desirable result. So remember, just do some of your own research. Of course, you've come to me to find a build that's nice for you, that's going to work no matter what. And I think I put that together. It's gonna work. You're gonna put it together, you're gonna be pretty happy, but when you're streaming, obviously results may vary due to internet connection and differences in parts. As a baseline, these guys are pretty good, and yeah, well, remember, you can just flex things out and add stuff in that you want or don't want. So thank you guys very much for watching. This about sums it up. If you're watching this on ystech.org, make sure you go and check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Beezito. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you go and check out my website, ystech.org, where the latest reviews and posts every Wednesday, and much more. So make sure you go and check it out, ystech.org. I'll see you there. Thank you guys very much for watching again. I hope you have an awesome day or rest of your day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.